listening to the Pohu Experience.
Yo, I am going to start off this episode with a little bit of guilt because yes, I know there was no episode last week and there's no excuse of being busy or not having the time. There's plenty of time, but I just ended up spending my time somewhere else. I'm going to fully talk about it because that's all I've been doing for the past week. I have been playing a game, and more specifically a gacha game, and the game is called Honkai Star Rail. If you've never heard of it, it's made by the same people that made Genshin Impact, but a different world and a different type of playstyle. It's a turn-based battle game instead of real-time like Genshin Impact, and I wasn't really excited about this at all. Like, it released on April 26th, which as you can see, the timeline lines up. I started 3 days after release because I saw everybody playing it and it just looked really good. I thought, you know, why not? Why not try it out? And trying it out meant the next 5-6 days I just lost track of time. Any extra time I had, I just put into the game. And yes, it is 100% a gacha game just like Genshin. Now, what's a gacha game? Maybe you don't play video games a lot, you don't know what a gacha game is. Gacha game is pretty much a game that will eventually force you to pay some kind of money in game to get like a random loot box. So get a random character or like a random item in game. Like, it's designed for you to pay money. It almost has like a gambling aspect to it. And I've never really touched on gacha games at all. I was always more towards like the traditional games. Like, I'm okay paying $70 for a good AAA game and, you know, spend my time there. And I always thought gacha was kind of gimmicky, and I never found a real good gacha game, like a really well-made one, until I played Genshin Impact. I did play Genshin Impact for maybe 3 to 6 months last year, and I really just tried it out because I love how it was multi-platform. You could play it on your mobile, on your iPad, or on your computer. And for me, during that time, I was looking for a casual game. I wanted a game where I could log on for 15 minutes, do what I gotta do, and go on with my day, but then every day have some kind of progression. Like, I really enjoy that in a game, but I didn't have time to kind of like sit down 8 hours a day grinding day after day after day, and if I don't grind, the season is ending and I end up falling behind. Like, I don't have time for those kind of games. So I was looking for a more casual game, and no matter where I looked, Genshin Impact was kind of the most recommended one. And I thought, you know what, why don't I just dive into this? If I don't like it, you know, no harm in it either. Even though Genshin and Honkai are both gacha games, you could go free to play. You could play the game completely not spending a cent at all. Obviously, you wouldn't go through the game as fast as people that are spending money, but you could enjoy most of the game nonetheless. And it might be a little bit more difficult too, but still very possible. So about a year ago, I jumped into Genshin, and one thing that really blew my mind was how great the game played. The game was very smooth. It didn't lag at all. It was a very open world. Everything was very well thought out. Music was great. Dialogue was great. And this was just, it didn't feel like a gacha game. It actually felt like a Breath of Fire RPG or Final Fantasy RPG, but in anime art style. Like in Genshin Impact, I spent most of my time exploring the world. Like, there's this thing that you have to hunt down around the world. It's located in random places, and by getting those things, you get more stamina, and stamina lets you run for longer periods of time or fly for longer periods of time. It's not essential at all to the game. It's just something you could do. I think I spent a good 2 weeks just hunting all these stamina boosters out in the Genshin world, and I was having so much fun with that, which has nothing to do with the story, nothing to do with all the characters. It was just an open world element that I really enjoyed. And there were times where I would just fly around the map because it was so beautiful. It was so beautifully made, and it really has been a long time where I felt so free with a game, meaning I would a lot of times play it right before I go to bed. Like, I'd have my iPad in bed, play it for a little bit, sometimes even pass out as I was mid-playing. Like, there's no way I'm playing a computer game or like a PS5, PS4 playing until I pass out. It's usually not the case. There's usually a start and stop. So that was a thing that I really enjoyed with Genshin. But after 3 to 6 months, I quit the game simply because I just felt I couldn't catch up. I was spending some money and I wasn't free to play the whole time. I spent some money. I think I spent roughly $70. I just kind of treated it like it was a normal game and this is the amount I'm willing to spend on it. And even spending $70, I thought I wasn't able to catch up with all the players that started playing since, you know, a year or two ago when it first came out. Because like every 6 or 8 weeks, there's a new character, and the only way to get the new character is to basically spend money. And it got to a point where I didn't even understand the old characters, and now I'm trying to get the new characters, and I was just in this in-between place where I felt kind of frustrated, and the storyline was a little bit too slow for me. It dragged on to the point where I skipped all the dialogue. I hardly ever do that with games, but I didn't enjoy Genshin's story as much as all the other games that I have played. So very naturally, I started to play it less and less and less until I just really don't play it at all. And so that was last year, right? Honkai Impact just came out April 26th, a couple of weeks back. I kind of heard about it, didn't really care for it, saw a lot of streamers playing it, and it just looked really good. It really reminded me of Final Fantasy. I really liked the turn-based combat where you didn't really need finesse on with your fingers. And Genshin Impact is a real-time combat, so you kind of have to have some finesse. You have to press the right buttons at the right times. With Honkai, you don't. You just kind of tell your character what to do, and there's an infinite amount of time of the AI waiting for you to choose your decision. And I really enjoyed that. It really felt really, really casual. And after seeing people play it, I thought, why not? This is the thing that got me frustrated about Genshin that I could totally overcome with this new game. And because it's made by the same people that made Genshin, the ways to upgrade items, the ways to pull for new characters, the ways the UI is set up was all very familiar to me because I already spent 6 months with Genshin. It's just I couldn't catch up. But now Honkai just came out and I'm starting fresh just like everybody else. It was a really, really good feeling. And so I got into it. I got hooked. The storyline is good. The voice acting is great. The music is great. I think in 5 days, I completed the story and I just felt like a lump in my heart. Like, oh my God, this is it. I have to wait maybe another 10, 14 days when they have an update to continue on with the story. Like that's how much time I put into the game, which is kind of why there was no episode last week. The only thing that made me get over that guilt was, okay, if I spent all my time playing Honkai last week, then I have something to talk about this week that's very fresh that I'm very, very excited about. And so that's what I'm doing right now. And so I've basically beaten the game till this current point. Like there's going to be an update, I think, in 6 days where the story will progress. I've already progressed till the very latest of the current story. I've gotten a lot of the characters already. And every day I'm really just logging in, farming some items to wait for the new content to drop. And then when the new content drops, there's also a new character. So I'm trying to get enough resources to pull for it without spending too much money. Like that's all I'm doing now. The game went from I'm spending all my time for 3 to 4 days when I first started to now I have nothing to do in the game after 15 minutes. Like I literally there's nothing to do but to run around aimlessly. I kind of hate that because I'm still really excited about the game. I want to do more, but there's nothing to do. And it's good that there's nothing to do because now I could record my podcast and, I wouldn't be stuck with this game the whole time. But I'm really, really glad that I got to catch this first wave of this game. And it seems like everybody's enjoying it too. So the community is really great. I'm seeing a lot of YouTube videos come out about it. And it's great watching other people's experiences on it, other people's theory crafting on what's the best team or the storyline, what's going to happen in the future. It's just this whole new little bubble that I got myself into that I'm really, really excited about. And so that's basically the number one reason why there was no episode in the last week. But I've been gathering a lot of questions, a lot of content on what to go through in the next couple of episodes. So it wasn't all for nothing. It was a little bit like research time as well. In a way, it felt like a really good break. And this weekend is another Diablo 4 weekend. I think it's the final beta weekend that they're going to have before the launch on June 6th. And they're having this last beta weekend. They call it, I think, the server slam or something. They just want to make sure that their servers can take the load of all the players playing on June 6th. And I think there's some things that you can farm only during this beta period that you'll get during release. I think it's a skin of the mount, and the way to get it is to defeat a world boss that spawns every 3 hours. I'm definitely going to be doing that, but I just have to defeat that world boss once and I get it. So after that's done, I probably won't be doing much in Diablo 4 until June 6th. And yeah, that's basically the update of my gaming these days. I haven't been playing Apex at all simply because there's been a lot of problems with the game, like audio issues and all that. And looking at the whole grand scheme of things, I think perhaps also after I found Honkai that it was a really nice casual game that I could stick to in the long run, I realized that I just don't really have time for a competitive game. And looking at the support around the game being very lackluster, like complaints that have been around for years, I thought maybe it's not the time for me to commit into something so serious, even though I'm always looking for some kind of competitive game since in the past, that's a big thing that I like to chase. But now I've kind of found competition in like the gacha game where the competition is not really with anybody but myself. I just want to create like the strongest team, the strongest character I can, and just be happy about it myself, not really sharing it with everyone else, just quietly. Like, that meme where there's that guy in the corner and people are partying and they say something like, well, they don't know I have a level 80 warrior in World of Warcraft, kind of like that. It's like, oh, you don't know I have the best team in Honkai star rail. That's all I'm chasing for. And perhaps, my goals have changed in terms of gaming and finding something that I enjoy. There was a question that I got last week that I promised this person that I would answer it more thoroughly in this episode of the podcast because I thought it was just not something I could put into text. And the answer I have to this question, I've thought about a lot actually, but just nobody asked a question at the right time where I had a good answer. And I feel right now I have a good answer. So that question is, what are the tenets that you strictly adhere to in terms of the weight loss journey? And when she asked this question, she mentioned examples like, is it intermittent fasting? Is it the schedule of my meals? But actually, the thing that I really strictly stuck to during this weight loss journey was that I changed one thing mentally, and that one thing was being very honest with myself. I'm going to explain that thoroughly. Being as honest as possible with my feelings and goals is something that helped me not give up. It's something that helped me keep going no matter what the circumstances were, because a lot of times I felt that I gave up because I was doing it not for me. I was doing it for somebody else, and when I did it for somebody else, it would always come a time where it just wasn't worth it. The suffering wasn't worth trying to please that other person. And I know you have to look really deep to get to that point, because for the longest time, I've never felt the need or want to lose weight. Yeah, I was fat. Yeah, I knew I wasn't good looking. Yeah, I was morbidly obese like the doctors told me. But honestly, in me, I don't care. Like, fine. I'm happy doing what I do. I still have friends. I still have video games. I didn't exactly have trouble finding a partner. Like, everything was great. Everything was fine. But all the time that I would go on a diet was because I thought that was what other people expected of me, whether it's family or friends and just society as a whole. And so that's what I end up doing. But I always end up failing because it reaches that point where the suffering just isn't worth it. So I guess I kind of got lucky in the sense that this time that I went on my weight loss journey, I was really focused on being honest to myself. And being honest to myself meant I don't give a shit about what anyone else thinks. Not family, not friends, no one, only my own voice matters. But I knew that that was also very dangerous, because if my own voice was incorrect, then I'd just be digging a grave for myself. And that is also partly why I stuck to an evidence-based approach to losing weight, because at the end of the day, at least I'm going by science. And remember what science is. Science isn't black and white. Science is, this is the information we have now. This is what we believe the current conclusion is. But all of this could change tomorrow if there's new evidence that comes out that completely wipes all this data that we have today. And you have to be open to that. And I was okay with that. It was much better than the alternative that I had before, which was listening to my aunt who heard it from her friend, and her friend heard it from her cousin's doctor. It's like, it's so messy. And you've been there, right? You've been there where there's all these people giving advice about diet, which they have no business in giving, but you also don't know better. You don't know where to get accurate advice. And the worst part is there's a lot of trainers out there that aren't giving accurate advice as well. So to bring back to what tenets that I strictly adhere to is being honest with myself. You know, there's that saying, there's a difference between being interested and committed. When you are interested, you do it when it's easy. When you're committed, you do it no matter what. When you're honest with yourself, you're going to be committed no matter what. And it goes both ways, right? If you're honest with yourself and you realize, you know what, I don't really want to lose weight. I could care less. I don't need to lose that extra 2-3 kilograms. I was trying to impress this person. If I really think about it, I don't really care what they think. Then that's it. That's done. Then commit yourself to not commit to the diet to make that person impressed. Commit yourself to a diet that makes yourself impressed, that makes yourself happy. Because if you want to talk about being interested and committed, interested is like everything is interesting. I'm interested in everything. I'm interested in, being a great guitar player. I'm interested in being a great piano player. I'm interested in being a good martial artist. I'm interested in flying a plane. I'm interested in a lot of things, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to put any time into it. It's interesting. It'd be cool, but I know it also takes a lot of time that with my current priorities, I just don't have to give to that. Whereas the things that I do deem important, that I do deem a priority in my life, I'm going to commit to no matter what. And I guess when I say I'm lucky, I think I'm lucky that I got into a mindset or an understanding where health is everything. For me, I don't know where this idea idea stemmed or started or just brewed inside of me year after year after year. But over time in my life, before I started a weight loss journey in 2015, it was very clear to me that without health, I have nothing. Like, you could have the most brilliant idea in the world. Without health, you're not going to get there. You could be the most hardworking person in the world and really grind towards whatever goal it is that you have, but without health, you're never going to get there. And then so in my mind, it's like, okay, wait a minute. So health is the prerequisite for everything, right? So assuming that life is worth living and your goals are worth chasing, health is the number one thing that has to be a priority, or not, you're kidding yourself. That thing isn't that important then, because you're not making sure you have the greatest chance of succeeding, because the greatest chance of succeeding means you need to have health. That means you need to put in the work for health before all else. And that's, I think, the thing that I stick to the most. I recognize that. I actually don't know what the second thing that I want to chase is. Like, I don't know. Being an influencer on IG, I don't know. Is this the path that I really want to go down to and make this into the biggest thing ever? I'm kind of happy where I am now, and just to maintain it, where do I want to go from here? I actually don't have an answer. That's an answer I'm asking myself every day. But I do know that whatever it is, right? Whatever I decide to do, whether I decide to go hard again, go daily videos again, or whatever it is, or I decide to completely shift my life. I want to compete in a UFC. I want to start training right now in my late 30s. Whatever it is, I need to have my health first for that to work. And so back then, with that mentality, what was the first step for me to have health? I was 123 kilograms. That is morbidly obese on a BMI scale. I had to get into normal BMI, or that's the very first step. And that's why when a lot of people ask me about my weight loss journey, I always say, that was just the first step. First step was to get my weight down. Second step is to get an exercise routine, and then, get my sleep right and get my mental health right. I had all the steps planned out in my head, and I knew it was going to take a lot of time to get there, and I was in no rush. The only thing that I promised myself is I'm never going to give up on this, right? There's going to be hard days. There's going to be days I take a day off, but I am never giving up on this. And so if the premise to asking this question is, what do I do to be successful in losing weight? It's really just that. The root is being honest with yourself. The root is being able to see your priorities and realizing that it's not a matter of can or can't. It's a matter of will or won't, because the formula is out there. Being in a calorie deficit consistently, you're going to lose weight. How you achieve that deficit, that's totally up to you. There's so many ways out there. You could figure out one way that works for you. You don't have to copy anyone else's ways. And I wouldn't recommend you copy anyone else's ways, because all those ways are based on their lifestyle, not yours. And so knowing the fundamentals, the law of thermodynamics is true no matter where you are in life, no matter what gender you are, no matter if you're a human being, these rules apply to you. Knowing that, you build a diet and a lifestyle that suits you, that helps you be in a calorie deficit consistently so you can lose weight towards your goals. Like, that's the way I look at it. That's the way I look at the whole journey. And that's why most of my content is just teaching you the fundamentals. It's just teaching you, like, these are the things that move the puzzle piece. There are things that don't really move it. Like, avoiding carbs isn't going to make you lose weight, because you could totally overeat not eating carbs. You could totally overeat on a carnivore diet as well. Like, these are the things that I'm trying to clear up with all of my content so that you can build something for yourself. And yeah, I guess that was the answer I was trying to get out. And I knew I could not get this out by writing it down. It would get jumbled. Like, I would have to say it out, record it, probably listen back, and then write it out. But I don't think it'll be as clear as me explaining it like this. And so to the one that asked this question, I hope you're listening. I hope this helps. This has truly been my mindset in this whole journey so far. The baseline hasn't really changed. The way I view some things may have changed over time, but this is the root of what I adhere to very, very strictly in my journey. One of the things that I wanted to go through in this episode was also a very quick thing about how to think about foods, and it's to think about foods in certain groups. I get a lot of questions. I think the most questions I get is XXX food okay? And XXX is everything. Like, is it okay to drink green tea during a diet? Is it okay to eat bananas during a diet? Is it okay to have chocolate in a diet? Like, name the food. I've been asked about that at some point or another. And I understand. I'm not complaining here. I'm just saying it's a question that I get get a lot. I saw another coach use this approach and I thought this is brilliant. I've thought about this, but I've never thought about explaining it in this way, which basically is if you start thinking about food in similar groups, such as veggies, fruits, carbs, proteins, fats, if you think about it like that, let's say you're eating veggies and you're eating spinach and you decided, I don't really like spinach these days. I want to eat some Brussels sprouts, but spinach has been working for me. I don't know if Brussels sprouts is okay. You have the answer to that question if you think about it in groups, because as spinach is a veggie, changing it to another veggie is totally fine. There is nothing wrong at all. So maybe that wasn't the best example, but now think about it in protein. People will ask, do you have to eat chicken breast for protein? The answer is absolutely no. Protein means any source of protein. Fish, lamb, beef, pork, tofu, tempeh. That's all fine. That's all protein. So if you're eating one type of protein and you're switching to another and you're wondering if that's okay, that's always okay. If you think about the food in groups and you're replacing it with the same type of food, there's not going to be any issues at all. It's very different than, can I replace my chicken breast with oranges? Then those are two different food types. Then that's something that you should ask somebody like me or somebody that understands nutrition a little bit more to break it down for you. But if you're changing something in the same group, you have to answer yourself. It's always okay. Can I have an apple instead of a banana? Can I have a banana instead of blueberries? That's all okay. It's only when, can I have cheese instead of broccoli? Okay, now we're talking about two different things. You're talking one thing from the fats group, one thing from the veggies group. Now, depending on your goals, it may or may not be okay. And so I think I can say this better, but I'll have to explain it more times for me to get a grasp on how to word it properly. But you get the gist. I wanted to share that here first as a mini tip as you're going through your day-to-day and, figuring out your diet. We're going to continue on with the 2018 Q&A questions that we did last episode. I just felt that was really, really fun. And time really flies when I'm going through those questions and seeing how I answered it before. I hope you enjoyed the last one too. And today we'll go through a couple as well. So the first question is, did you ever try other kinds of diets, e.g., Atkins? How about your cheat day? So I guess this is two different questions. So first one, did you ever try other kinds of diets? I've basically tried every single diet. I think that's what makes me special in a sense. I mean, come on, I've been morbidly obese for most of my life. During that whole time, I tried everything. Anything that people told me, I tried. I tried cleanses. I tried detoxes. I tried Atkins. I tried eating more meals a day, but less food, eating one meal a day, eating just vegetarian. I've tried everything. Like, I haven't tried exactly keto because I didn't know what was keto back then, but I've tried cutting all carbs. So it's roughly the same thing. And none of them worked for me because none of them I was able to sustain. There was no diets that I tried that I could keep up to more than 2 weeks, really. Like by week 2, it was usually, all right, I deserve a treat. And after that treat, it was bye-bye. I was never going back to that diet again. And so that's also kind of why I understand this whole journey, I think, more than people that haven't been through it, because I know what it's like being that lost kid in this big world of fitness and health and getting all this advice thrown at you and trying it, and none of it would work. But then you look at other people, there'd be a million testimonies on every single method that, oh my God, because of this method, I lost this weight. And everybody's like their own Subway commercial. It's like, what the hell, man? What did I do wrong? How come everybody's getting results except for me? And you really fall into that mindset, right? You start to fall into a mindset of, well, I guess it works for others, but not for me. So, all right, on to the next one. Hopefully the next one will be for me. You hear enough things, right? You hear enough things people say, like, a diet that works is a diet that you don't feel that you're really on a diet. You can still eat whatever you want and lose weight. And it's like, it's the biggest pile of shit advice ever. But back then, that's what I believed, right? It's kind of the, if you enjoy your job, you wouldn't be working. You would be just playing every day. It's like that kind of advice, except for weight loss. And that was what I was looking for back then, which I never ever found. And the second part to the question is, how about your cheat day? On this answer, I wrote, I don't view a cheat day as a cheat day. Everything I eat is planned ahead or beforehand. If I impulsively ate a lot more today, I just eat less the next 2-3 days to make up for it. And so I guess my answer back then and now is not very different. I think I worded it not very good back then though, because I said if I impulsively ate a lot more today, I'd eat less in the next 2-3 days. That's not true at all. I don't ever impulsively eat. Like, here's what I'll do. I'll impulsively eat, but it's planned. Like today, if I really feel like chicken nuggets, I'm going to have the nuggets. But it's not like I just went and get nuggets, stuffed it in my mouth, and then be like, oh shit, okay, I better make up for it to the next 2-3 days, which is, I think how I worded it feels like that, but that's not the case. The way I deal with it is, man, I want nuggets. All right, let me see. Go into my Fitness Pal, put in 6 nuggets. Let's say it's 240 calories. Then I'll plan the next few days. Maybe each day I eat 120 calories less, and I'll plan where I'll take it away from. Like perhaps it's less rice or whatever, but it's all planned beforehand before I go ahead and eat the nuggets. And so it's not really impulsive at all. It's completely planned. And I do that because I don't really believe in a cheat day. If I want to eat something, I'm going to eat it. I'm going to plan it out. It's kind of like with your finances, right? I don't believe in impulsively buying something. Like if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to think first. How much is in my account? What are my bills to pay? I'm going to think about it first before I click that purchase. I'm not going to click that purchase and then realize, oh shit, I can't pay my phone bill this week. I just don't function that way. Me personally, I know for some people, they do have impulsive tendencies. I don't really have that. I'm too much of a planny person. I need to know everything. I need to have the data. I want to plan it out, and I want to plan it out in a way where it's the least amount of risk and failure towards my final goals. And so I don't really have cheat days, but I do eat whatever I want if I do feel like it. Next question is it okay just to eat healthier and cleaner but not do any exercises? Now, I guess there's a lot of ways to interpret this question. So you could interpret it as is it okay to just focus on diet and not exercises and still lose weight? And that answer would be yes, right? Because you don't need exercise to lose weight. If you're in a consistent calorie deficit, which happens from your diet, you're going to lose weight no matter what. But then if you look at the question again, is it okay just to eat healthy and cleaner and not do any exercises? Healthy and cleaner doesn't guarantee you results. You could eat clean and still gain weight. So that's a misconception. If your goal is to be healthier, then I wouldn't recommend no exercises. And remember, even hitting a steps count is considered exercise. Exercise doesn't have to be the gym. You don't have to run a marathon. Exercise could be something a lot less. It could be 10 minutes of body weight workouts every single day. Exercise doesn't mean something super rigorous. So I wouldn't recommend that you don't have any exercises. I mean, it's okay, I guess, but it really depends on your goals. I think this type of question is coming from somebody that doesn't really understand the fundamentals, what the weight loss journey looks like. And for somebody like this, I would just highly recommend you go through some of my content, because I will paint the picture to let you know what to focus on and what not to focus on. And I think at this point in time, the best way to kind of get caught up with all my content wouldn't be going through my 1,000+ IGTV videos. I mean, you could go and check that out if you like video forum content more, but then I would suggest you go through the archives of the weekly letters that I write. There's been over 50+ letters now, and I think all of them, I go really in depth into what the journey really includes and what you should worry about and what you shouldn't. That would be a good starting place. Next one is, are you happy with your weight right now? And the answer I gave it back then in 2018 was, I bulked from 72 to 82. Today I am 80. Back then I had a goal to compete in powerlifting, but now my goal is to do the daily vlog. So I guess back then I gave up my working out goal to pursue my daily videos goal, because I realized I couldn't do both. When I was juggling both, I felt a real lack of creativity, if that makes sense. It was just a drain on my mental health. Like after a tough session working out, I just feel mentally drained and can't really think of anything. And once I identified that, I really had to choose. Do I want to go down the content creation route, or do I really want to go down to compete in powerlifting? And back then, my want to create content was much larger than compete in powerlifting. So then my workouts paused back then. That journey, I guess, goes all the way back to the first episode of this Coming Back Season 6 podcast, where, you see my ups and downs. I'm trying to get back that really want to push hard in the gym, but then realizing that it goes against all these things that I've been doing for the past few years. So then if you're going to ask me that today, am I happy with my weight now? I'm happy. It's actually the same answer to what I wrote in 2018, which is, I'm happy to not be 123 kg anymore, but ideally I want to lose a bit more body fat and get back down to the 75, 78 range and work out steadily from there. No more bulking for me. And this is like deja vu. So since 2018, I did come back down to like 75, 78. And then I went on another bulk. So I'm closer to the 90 range now and been maintaining here for like the past year. Ideally, I want to go back down to 77, 78. That's what I'm working towards right now. But if you're going to ask if I'm happy with my weight right now, 100% yes. I'm happy I'm not 123 kg anymore. I'm happy I'm in complete control of my weight. No matter what my weight is, I have no complaints. Like, I know how to get there. I know how I got here. I know how to get back. For me, all of this is no longer a matter of can I get there? It's do I want to get there? And that's been the thing that I've been struggling the most these past couple of years because I just can't really decide on what my goal is. Depending on my goals, my weight will be completely different. And what sucks is I think about things a lot very deeply, and things could change very easily over like 2-3 days. Any results that I want is easily going to take at least 2-3 months minimum. And I mean like minimum results. Hitting what I want around the 77, 78 range is probably going to take the rest of this year. So, and I'm very aware of that. And I'm also very aware that if my goal changes anywhere in between here, then that's another story altogether again. So very long-winded, but yes, I'm happy with my weight now. Weight isn't really my concern anymore. I'm completely over worrying about the number. I'm more concerned about my mental health, about my future, about what I really want to chase. And yeah, that's where I am at currently in 2023. Next question is, do you use protein? If yes, what have you tried and what is the best? Thanks. So yes, obviously I do drink whey protein. I haven't tried that many brands. A lot of times if I try other brands, it's because my friends have other brands and I just try a scoop. So I've tried all kinds of brands here and there, started with like the usual GNC ones that most of us start out with. And I ended up with my protein because a friend recommended to it, saying that it tasted the best. Back then I was living in Jakarta, Indonesia. It was not easy to get my protein. You could get it from like resellers, and a lot of them were like really fishy. Like you basically buy from like the local Shopee there, which I think back then was Tokopedia. I forgot which one. They would sell my protein, but it was very hard to find a seller that would sell the whole pack. They would sell it divided up by themselves. Like they would self-package it out of a big bag, because I think they buy the 5 kilo bags and then they sell it per 500 grams. But I'm not going to buy that. Like, it's scary. Like, to look really hard for somebody that's willing to sell the 5 kilogram bag. And so when I finally found somebody that had it and tried it, and I realized, wow, this tastes very different than GNC. Because if I'm going to be honest, like I felt GNC tasted like chalk. Like it wasn't something I enjoyed at all, but I understood the benefits of having whey protein. So I was just going to tough it out. But after I tried my protein, I was like, what? Whey could taste like this? Why would I ever drink GNC ever again? And so since then, I stuck with my protein. And no, I am not sponsored by them at all, but all this time I have been drinking just from my protein. And also the other thing was, since moving back to Taipei, only maybe 3-4 years ago, my protein decided to have their HQ here in Taiwan. So there's an official Taiwan website for my protein. You no longer have to buy from distributors. They have crazy ass discounts now and then, like anywhere from 50 to 70%. And usually I just wait for that time and go buy. Not only is it the best tasting for me so far, but it's also the cheapest. So then it's kind of like a no-brainer. It's the most convenient, it's the cheapest, and it tastes the greatest. The taste part, I would totally admit that's bias. Flavor-wise, I feel you can't go wrong with any of the tea or coffee flavors. So like latte, matcha, I forgot what other tea ones they had. They had another like English breakfast or Earl Grey, whatever it was all good. And if you want more basic, go with vanilla. Vanilla mixes well as for a shake if you're going to make a smoothie or something. The one thing I don't like from it is the chocolate. The chocolate does not taste like chocolate. Like you might as well just get vanilla and add cocoa powder. That's more chocolate than their chocolate flavor. Their chocolate flavor is just weird sweet thing, like not good at all. But yeah, my protein is the one that I take. Next one is, your fasting means no food but can drink, is it? Yes, when I do intermittent fasting, it's not a dry fast. It's not like the Ramadan fasting. It's intermittent fasting where 0-calorie drinks are totally fine. So when I was doing intermittent fasting, I was drinking coffee, I was drinking tea, I was drinking soda water. I was even at some points drinking, Coke Zero, Diet Coke, because they're all 0 calories. And it does help. It does make it a lot easier to get through. Soda water is something that I never thought I would enjoy, but because of intermittent fasting, I always have a box at home, because it's just something where you don't really feel like eating anything, you don't really want a snack, but you kind of want something to fill your stomach. Chugging down some soda water is pretty good. It's a pretty nice feeling. And so yes, the fasting that I always talk about, like intermittent fasting and all that, that's when drinks are allowed, 0-calorie drinks. It's not like the Ramadan or religious fasting at all. Next one is, how many times do you eat during fasting? For me, typically it's 2, but there's really no rule. You could eat eat as many times or as little times as you want during your eating period if you're doing any kind of fasting. I prefer to because I prefer bigger meals, and usually my first meal will be smaller and my second meal will be bigger. And so usually the schedule will look like lunch is where I have my first meal in a day. It will be not that big. Say I have, 2,000 calories to eat today. That meal will be 500 to 700. And then my second meal will be like 1,003. Like I'll eat a lot for my dinner. And then after dinner, I'm back to fasting until the next day's lunch. That's typically how my schedule looks. But that's just something I prefer. That's something I figured out that works for me. Actually, these days I switched it. Now it's only since maybe 5 days ago, I realized that a lot of times when I'm drinking alcohol at night, if the meal I have is too big, I don't feel good. I feel very bloated. And so I was experimenting the last couple of days with what if I had a really big lunch but a smaller dinner, so then when I drink, I'm a lot less bloated and more fresh, and I've been really enjoying it. So I've been trying it out for the past 5 days, really enjoying it every single one of these days, but can't say anything definitive at the moment. But then remember, this is just me. This is so specific to me, my lifestyle, my preferences. You can have as many meals as you want during the eating period if you're doing intermittent fasting. Next one is, how do you cook your garlic? Oh, this is all right. So if you flip back to the pictures back then, I was cooking like whole cloves of garlic, like chopping them in half and baking them. And a lot of people said that the picture looked scary. It looked like, I forgot what that phobia was, where you're afraid of, is it like spots or dots that look like, I don't even know how to word it. I hope you know what I mean. But yeah, back then it was just cut it in half and throw it in the oven. That's all it was. There was nothing else to it. And back then, I think I just wanted more flavor in my food. And this was a way that I found, number one, gave my food a lot of flavor. Number two, a lot of nutrients. Number three, not very gassy at all. Because if I eat raw garlic, which I really like, I really enjoy, but I get really, really gassy, like super gassy to the point where I'm annoying myself. It's not even annoying other people in the family. I'm annoying myself. And so that wasn't an answer if I'm going to have it every day. Back then, I went through that whole phase of, I'm just going to buy a lot of garlic, bake a lot of it. It's just kind of like when you go to some steak houses and they give you that baked garlic to go with your steak. It's exactly like that, except made from home. And how you make it is 170, 190 degrees Celsius in the oven for 30-40 minutes. That's it. Oil optional. You don't really need to put any oil on it at all. Any idea how to overcome emotional binge eating? Have you ever struggled with it? Yeah, I binged a lot before. There was actually a period of my life I was dealing with bulimia because I kept overstuffing myself and then be very fearful that I would gain weight and then purge it out. And it wasn't a fun time, and I'm not proud of that time at all either. This is the worst part. I mean, worst part in the sense of I got over it. I have no idea how I got over it. Like I really don't. I just kind of stopped. Like I had bulimia for maybe 2 years and then I just stopped. I don't know what changes. It was around like my junior and senior year of high school. So when I was between ages 15 to 17, it was pretty bad back then. Every meal would be overstuffing myself and then purging it. I don't have a good answer. And it sucks because I know how bad it feels, but I really don't have an answer. But then to this question about emotional binge eating, I don't think I ever used food as comfort. I just really enjoyed food, which is why I ate a lot, but I don't go to eat food because I'm sad or happy. It just wasn't something I turned to. I just love food. I would eat it sad or happy. It wasn't really tied to my emotions. But then what I can say is, if you're an emotional eater, the first thing you have to deal with is the emotions. It's really not the binging. The binging is just the result of it, right? And if you don't fix the emotions, if you fix binge eating, you probably end up doing something that's not very healthy as well. You'll turn to something else, which is why you have to deal with the root problem, which is the emotions part. Again, I just don't have the tools. I don't have the skill set to help you with that. I'm very sorry to say. Like, I wish I did. I'm very interested in like the topic of psychology and all that, but I'm nowhere close to somebody to be giving advice. I think the best I could do is give you my own experiences, and hopefully you could take something away from it, because I do have friends that are psychologists that are very into understanding human behavior. The things they understand and they talk to me about is way beyond my pay grade, and I wouldn't want to, just because I have a platform here, I wouldn't want to be giving any kind of misinformation, because let's face it, misinformation about diet and health is already mind-boggling, and I don't want to be any part of misinformation for like psychology and mental health unless I really go down that rabbit hole and study it and understand it myself, which I haven't. A lot of my psychology stuff is all just personal experience. Next one is, how do you manage your diet routine? I think I answered a similar question last week, but give it a very quick one. I manage my diet routine by planning ahead with MyFitnessPal, or what I use is Carbon app. And then more or less on most days, I'm eating the exact same things unless there's some kind of event, like, going out with friends, going out with family. Only those days would I have to change my routine, but then it's very easy to manage because I'm only changing those days, then I'm back to my usual routine. So boring answer, but it's really just planning ahead. Next one is I'm trying to lose some fat, and even though I try to control my diet, it's still not working sometimes. Please give me solutions. I think this is just part of like what I've been preaching in a lot of my content these days, which is you got to be very patient and go very slow, right? If something isn't working in the first 2 weeks, the thing that you got to do isn't to give up. The thing you got to do is to reflect on what isn't working, make the adjustments, and keep going. That's the solution. The solution isn't like, okay, A isn't working, let's do B. All right, B isn't working, let's do D. All right, D's not working, let's do F. That's not the way to proceed with diet. To proceed with diet is really understanding how it works, understanding your own preferences and goals, and just starting with something, start with H and realize that, oh, H, I like this about H, but this stuff I don't really like. And you make the adjustments and then you keep going. And your main goal being that you can stick to whatever diet you chose for yourself for as long as possible, and to make any adjustments that you can that still keep you in a consistent calorie deficit. And so it's really understanding how this journey works. It's like getting a job, right? Job A doesn't do well, you jump to job B, you jump to job C, and everything's not working for you. Then you might want to reflect back into like, is it the jobs that aren't working, or is it me not understanding what is expected of me in a job? Once you start to understand that, you'll be able to handle a job for a longer period of time before switching to somebody else that's more suitable for your end game, for what you want, for your end goals. I don't know if I'm being so abstract here in this explanation, but I hope that made sense. That's how I would answer it today in 2023. But let's see, 2018, this is how I answered it. So the question was, I'm trying to lose some fats, even though I try to control my diet, it's still not working. Give me solutions. And my answer back then was, eating healthy or clean doesn't automatically mean you'll lose fat. Losing fat means you got to eat in a calorie deficit, meaning you got to eat less energy than your body expends. There are many ways to achieve a deficit. It's important to figure out a way that suits you. I'd suggest starting by creating small habits, working towards a diet that consists mostly unprocessed whole foods, and picking up a physical activity that you enjoy. You know what? That's probably a better answer. 2018 Poe is explaining that way better than 2023. I think my 2023 answer just now makes a lot more sense for somebody that's followed me for the past 2-3 years and is asking this question, versus the 2018 answer is more like, you don't know who I am, you have this problem, how do you solve it? And that would be a better answer, if that makes sense. And so we'll do a final one and continue on in the future episodes. The final one is a very lighthearted one. It's peanut butter or cheese. And my answer back then is exactly the same as now. It's both. Like, why would you choose one or the other, or both together? There should never be a point where you got to choose between peanut butter and cheese. Just have both, portion it out, have both. And so that wraps up for the episode today. I hope you're finding going through this like 2018 Q&A, all these answers helpful, because I think for me it's also kind of refreshing. I actually still get a lot of these questions. It's just a lot of them I don't answer as in depth anymore. I kind of just point to like, hey, you could check out this article that I wrote and it answers it there, or you could check out this video or this post, because some of the questions are just coming too many times, right? But then if I answer all this here, I guess I could point to it here in the podcast so you could have a more in-depth answer as well. And of course, also, it's super fun. It's super nostalgic for me. I'm so glad I did this. I'm so glad I spent all that time making this ebook, and now I can look back at it and look back at all my answers with it too, comparing it to my answers today, which is, it's been some time, 2018, 2023, it's been a good 5 years, which is kind of crazy. I just realized 2 years from now, 2025, will be the 10-year anniversary of my weight loss journey. That's crazy. 10 years just passed like that. But anyway, we'll continue more in the next one. If you're playing Honkai Star Rail, add me on your friend list, because I got a really powerful Seele that you could use as your support. But if you don't play it, that's cool too. I don't want to get people in a gacha game if you don't want anything to do with it, but it's really something I've had so much fun this past week, and I gotta say, it's so crazy that it's such a well done game. It really feels like a AAA game, but it's free. It's freaking free. But yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.